this is Adriana from Tasty Pastry Kitchen, and I'm going to show you how to make my easy fudgy one bowl brownies. Alright, let's get baking. Take 2 pieces of foil or parchment paper and use your 8x8 pan as a guide to make 2 layers. This helps in removal of the brownie after it has baked and ensures you get nice, presentable, clean edges when cutting. The liners are not necessary if you just want to keep the brownies in the pan, or just put a large scoop of ice cream in the warm brownies and eat them out of the pan. But whether or not you have the foil liners, give it a light but thorough application of cooking spray. I'm going to take this over to the sink and spray so I don't make a mess on the counter. Now let's make the brownie batter. To a medium saucepan set to medium-low, add your butter. Let that melt about halfway and then add your brown sugar and white sugar. Once the butter has melted about 90%, turn off the burner. We're not trying to cook anything, but we're just trying to melt the butter and sugars just a little bit. Use a whisk to combine the butter and sugars gently, and then remove the pan from your heat source. Continue to whisk. In the beginning, you will see the fat from the butter separating from the sugars, but if you keep mixing, the sugar will melt and you will get a slightly more homogeneous mixture that comes together and is going to be slightly lighter in color. This is what you want. Allow this to cool almost completely before moving on to the next step. Whisk in 2 eggs, which you can just grab cold from the fridge, and then add some cocoa powder, salt, baking powder, and vanilla. Whisk to combine this very thoroughly, making sure you grab any bits of cocoa that's stuck on the sides of the pan or in the corners. One little tip here, the length of time you spend on this step will determine the thickness of that lighter, wrinkly, crackled layer that you often see on the top of brownies. If you're really serious about getting a really thick layer of that, you can do this step in a mixer, but I've found that my muscles are good enough to give me that pretty crackled layer without the use of a mixer. The mixture should be super dark at this point and probably bubbling a little bit from the baking powder that you added. The last ingredients are your flour and chocolate, and here I'm using bittersweet chocolate chips. Use a spatula to gently mix. Grab your prepared pan and scrape in the batter. Use the bottom of your spatula to smooth out the top a little. Place this on a middle rack in an oven that's been preheated to 350 for about 25 to 30 minutes. While the brownies are baking, let's make some ganache for the top. It's certainly not required, but it really does make these brownies special. It only takes 2 ingredients, chocolate and heavy cream. You want to place these in a microwave-safe bowl and heat in 15-second intervals, stirring between each time. Here's my last stirring interval and one of the reasons I love making ganache so much. I love watching the transformation of something very cloudy and questionable looking into a mixture that is beautifully smooth and decadent. Chocolate is really an amazing ingredient to work with. Place the ganache in the fridge until you're ready to decorate your brownies. Near the end of the baking time, test your brownies for doneness. The oven times are always guidelines, but they're never hard and fast rules. If you take one thing away from this tutorial, it's that the key to fudgy brownies is to always underbake. When you insert a skewer in the middle of the brownies, it'll definitely be wet but not gooey and have lots of crumbs. If it comes out completely dry, then you've overbaked them. While the brownies are cooling, we can whip up our ganache. It should be relatively cold from hanging out in the fridge and probably way too stiff to spread on much of anything. By taking a mixer, we whip up the cream and incorporate air into the ganache, making it light and spreadable. If you find that your ganache is still too stiff to spread, simply add a couple teaspoons of heavy cream to loosen things up. Alright, let's decorate. Take your cooled brownies and remove all the foil liners. I find that it is neater to cut and frost on a large platter or cutting board rather than directly in the pan. Pile your ganache atop the brownies and use a knife or offset spatula to spread the ganache to the edges. Add some sprinkles if you like. A good rule of thumb for cutting is cut in half and then cut your halves in half. And there you have it, easy fudgy one-pan brownies. Remember, the chef gets the first taste. Thanks for watching and enjoy your day.